if I had a nickel for every time Bai Jingting played a time traveler who'd ultimately end up suffering the symptoms of time traveling, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't weird, and I'm actually quite grateful for that. Hello and welcome to Talk About Drama, where we talk about what's hot and what's not in the drama world. And today we're going to talk about Mobius and why I think it's one of the perfect follow-up to Bai Jingting's time traveling saga, because I was honestly a little bit skeptical when I saw the announcement and the trailers as well, because it did seem like your typical time traveling show, and the trailers didn't really give that much away, which on one hand I was really glad, because I didn't want to know what was happening. They just gave a basic setup of the story and they were like, yeah, you figure it out yourself once you start watching it. And it's short, it's just 16 episodes, and it didn't drop with a lot of promotions from what I can see, because I didn't know when it aired and only when I saw it on Netflix I was like, oh, it's finished airing, and I started watching it, and honestly I binged it in 3 days. I'm not kidding. It's very addictive and it's very well made. It's like peeling an onion every single time someone appears, and it's a new mystery because every character has a motivation. And honestly, I am so happy seeing a female lead who has her wits around her, is crucial to the story, like she's contributing something and has a reason to be there apart from just being the female lead. Because An Nan actively plays a role in saving Ning Chi because she tries to develop the serum that ultimately ends up saving Ning Chi's life. She also has amazing self-preservation instincts, because when she hears people fighting outside and she's being shut down in this room with her hands and feet zip tied, the first thing that she does after breaking free is not run outside to see what's happening, but to hide herself and try to find a way to get out of that room, which I swear to God, I was so close to applauding her, because so many times people would take the female lead out of the room and into the action when it's not a good part, because she's hearing shots being fired. You're literally going into crosshairs of 2 shooters and you don't have a gun. You barely know how to fight. What are you going to do there? And you don't even know who the other person is. So the best thing you could do is hide yourself and try and get out of that situation, which she does. And I applaud her for that. And I applaud her for her character, because in the 5 loops that we see, An Lan has her wits together. She knows what to do and how to do it. And I really like the dynamics between Ning Chi and An Lan, because technically, in a way, the reason why they're together in the first place is because of Mo Yun-ji and Zhang Yuwen's research. And technically, Mo Yun-ji and Zhang Yuwen played Cupid for Ning Chi and An Lan, which I'm kind of grateful for. But also, it's quite ironic. And even Mo Yun-ji points out at one point that, you know, you're my bad luck charm for everything. And Ning Chi's like, yeah, I wonder how fate works, because you're the whole reason why I'm stuck in this time loop. And it was quite funny. And I appreciate the drama for wrapping everything up 15 minutes before the final episode ends and making the last 15 minutes a complete fever dream. Because what was I even watching? Everyone's doing their own thing and they literally don't care. But these are the people that we've been observing for the past 16 episodes. And once they're finally let loose of the constraints of doing casework, they all got loose screws in their head and they're enjoying themselves out there. And honestly, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop the entire time. And it did. In the final few seconds, the loop reset. And Ning Chi, even though An Lan told him that, you know, this is going to take away your power of recognizing a loop or going into a loop, he does feel weird about going to the riverside again and kissing An Lan. And in parallel, Mo Yun-ji is also like, I think it's reset for him too, because he's has no qualms about taking the doctor hostage and basically giving a murderous look to the audience. So I hope there's a season 2. I'm not sure how much material they have adapted, because I was quite surprised to know it's actually based on a novel. So I will be reading it at some point, and I'm not sure how much material there is, because I know Reset has a sister novel which they didn't adapt, and they are doing Reset 2 at some point, but I'm not sure if Bai Jingting and Zhao Dunmai are going to come back, so fingers crossed for that. But yeah, I don't know how much they've adapted for Mobius, but I would really love to see a part 2, because there's so many things that they've left open-ended. Like, what happened to Fan Wanqing? Like, is she still there in the cryogenic chamber? Is the chamber broken? Did she die finally, like properly die? Because she only had like 28 days from the day of the final loop, and since the day looped, she still has like 28 days. But how many days can she hold on to, because the company is no longer under Mo Yun-ji's control. Moma is now under his wife's control. So she's quite happy taking control of the company, and Mo Yun-ji is incarcerated for all intents and purposes. And knocking out a doctor might not necessarily aid him in a prison escape, because looking at it, his room doesn't really have a window and there's guards outside. So I wonder how he's going to break out. But knowing Mo Yun-ji, he probably would try and break out once, twice, thrice, just to see the pattern and then attempt to prison break properly. But there's also like how many days Shen Wanqing can hold on to, or if the second season, or like if the continuation of the story is going to be Shen Wanqing died because the cryogenic chamber couldn't sustain her, and Mo Yun-ji broke out, and by the time it was too late. But now he's out for revenge, and Ding-chi has to step in again. But now he can't really recognize loops, so either he has to inject the serum in itself, or maybe An-lan ends up becoming the person who recognizes loops, or An-lan's mum could be the person that recognizes loops, and she has them by trying telling them that, you know, you've entered a loop today and act accordingly. I know I'm going off tangent because I've literally just finished watching it and I was so excited. Like, I really liked it, and I really loved the police work that all of them did. They were a team through and through, even though in the third loop, I believe there were some doubts with the way Ding-chi was basically going at it guerrilla style, like literally telling everyone what to do off the bat, because he didn't have any time to waste, and he needed to figure out all the players before it enters day 4 of the loop, because it only loops 5 times and the 5th time is the final time. So you get 4 rehearsal days, out of which you don't even know the first day is a rehearsal, and then you've got like 3 rehearsal days left, and the last one, the 5th one, is the final day. So whatever happens and it doesn't loop anymore, which is quite interesting. And I'm assuming that whoever took the drug, the RAM drug, whoever took it as a healthy person, not as someone who's got one step in death's door, would probably be getting these side effects too. And it would be interesting to find out that, you know, other people as well are experiencing these loops, because we see that, you know, in animals, in nature, the days are being extended to from 365 to like 400. The effect is there, but it's just like we people can't recognize it. For normal people, it's like a dream. You had a dream about it and you feel like it's something that you've seen before. It's a deja vu. So I thought there could be an interesting take that, you know, somebody took the drug during the trials, but they got better because they weren't terminal, and now they've got this ability to loop through time without even signing up for it. And there could be people out there who maybe got the drug second-handedly through like other means and allowed looping through time, because loop days are the same for everybody, but everybody uses it differently. Like Ding-chi didn't know the looping days were being used to kill people the first 2 times the murders occurred. It was only the 3rd time that, you know, he realized that something's wrong, and that's when like they sprung into action. So it's quite an interesting concept, and I had so much fun with like every character being introduced, because, you know, the first few seconds before the opening credits, they give you a little tidbit of like the backstory, how it ties in, and characters just take random names. Like An-lan was like at one point talking about how she would find Wanqing. I was like, did we introduce a Wanqing? And Wanqing comes later on. So everything is built into the story. Nothing comes out of thin air, and it's being introduced to you step by step. So everybody is on the radar in like the first few episodes, because everybody is behaving sus. And I was like, okay, fine. Mo Yun-ji could be the guy, because obviously he's the best candidate for the whole thing, because he knows his own habits, and he's the only person who could be actively breaking the loop for himself just to throw Ding-chi off, because An-lan is not a looper. We've established that in the beginning, even though it would have been quite interesting to see An-lan being a looper. But yeah, since she isn't, she is off the table. And I didn't really have that many like positive feelings towards Han Yufei or Tang Xing, because Tang Xing is too young and Han Yufei is too impulsive and too soft-hearted, I think, to commit 2 murders and just like walk around like nothing's happened. And Mo Yun-ji was the best candidate, because in the second loop, like the first time the loop restarted, Mo Yun-ji told Ding-chi that, you know, I'm too tired of this, and you probably gave me the opportunity to go on stage and speak at this lecture because you wanted to smoke out squid, which you wouldn't be able to do if you'd stuck too close to me like you've been doing for the past 15 or so days. So if you're all tired, let's do this. And because he knows it's looping, right? So he wants to end this loop in like 5 days. Plus his eyesight is deteriorating, and as the loops go on, he starts to suffer from this crippling headache, which is very nicely established in the first loop itself. And he's like constantly rubbing his eyes, taking off his glasses, and being just tired in total. Like I think in the second loop or the third loop, the second loop, he snaps at Ding-chi because he's been up all night, he's got the headache, his eyes are acting up, and he doesn't know who's the looper. So everything like is pressing down on him, and he's not in his best position. So I thought, let Mo Yun-ji not be the squid, even if it turns out that, you know, he's a looper. So it could have been like he started this whole thing, but it got out of hand, and now somebody else has taken over, and there's a genuine threat to his life, which I think they kind of did, because Moyunji, even though he turned out to be Squid, he wasn't the one who targeted himself. Like, he didn't plan his own assassination like I thought he did. It was in the first loop, the wedding cake exploded and Moyunji died. And I thought, well, you too cold-hearted, because you didn't know you were going to loop back in time, and you killed yourself just to throw off suspicion. But it wasn't Moyunji, it was Jang Yu-won who was targeting Moyunji from behind the scenes, which added another layer to the storytelling, because in a way, even though he is establishing a threat towards himself, he's not targeting himself actively. He's just using the whole thing as a smokescreen. But Jang Yu-won is using that smokescreen as a cover to actively attack this one person, and he's been doing it in the shadows the entire time. So, in the second loop, when the bride's ex-boyfriend, I think, went berserk because of the drugs and held her hostage at knife point, and then she diffused the situation. When he was walking in, I noticed that this one person was walking past him in like this jacket, which you usually wear like as a band uniform. So I noticed him with like, I was like, never mind, it must be just like a wardrobe thing. But it turned out to be the person who actually drugged up the ex-boyfriend and put him up to his antics. So he is Shen Wanqing's brother, who himself had a backstory, and he was established quite well. And if we do end up having a second season, I really, really want to see the backstories on Fang Lu, on Yu Pei-shan. Like, I want to see the police be pleased. I want to know more about them as well, because Pei-shan, even though she's a bit suspicious about Ding Ji, she does help him through and through, and she's the first person to walk out of the room when Ding Ji has been shut in, because she knows that this person, even though he sometimes acts suspiciously and does not let me cook my meals in peace, he actually does good for all of us. And every time he's pointed us to somebody, he turns out to be suspicious in every way possible. So over time, they've built this trust with each other. And even though this guy, who seems like a trust fund kid, suddenly gives us suspicious commands, we do follow it up, because A, his heart is in the right place, and B, he's being genuine about what he's doing. He's really going out to help people, because that's his purpose in life for all intents and purposes. And I quite like that. Even though the bank robbery was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, the robbers broke in, the Ding Ji and gang just like handed them the money. They was like, just take it and go. And the robbers themselves, they were too stupefied to like understand what was happening. And then Ding Ji and Moyunji's fight on the rooftop was like A-level, because yes, villains and heroes do spend way too much time bickering with each other, but over here I quite enjoyed it because of the way they've built up this relationship with each other, with Ding Ji guarding Moyunji and Moyunji actually turning out to be the mastermind of all of it. Even though it did irritate me at some points when Ding Ji acted out, even though he would have probably got the job done had he just kept his head down and said some flowery words. But looking back, it's what Ding Ji is made of, right? He is a guy with the heart in the right place, but he's also impulsive. He's not a cold-blooded killer. And unlike Moyunji, who keeps his head down and plots 10 steps ahead, Ding Ji is more of a go-getter. So if he wants to do something, he would basically break through doors and just like power through just to get the job done. And as the loops go on, his desperation grows, because it's not just like directly linked to him, it's directly linked to the people around him. Because in the first loop, everybody died, like his team died, and these were the people that he was in charge of. He put them in this position, and now their lives are at stake. And even as the loop went on, people from his team, they kept getting caught up in these things. Like Fan Lu fatally shot 2 people in 2 loops, and even though it was not her fault, even though she was protecting Ding Ji and that was her training being put at work, it still left a lasting impact on her. And then I think it was Fan Zhou who was put in charge of seeing Fu Jun and like making sure that he makes it alive. He reports to him that he died, and death does leave a lasting impact on him, and he knows that. Ding Ji knows that. Going through so many loops, seeing so many people end up dead right in front of his face, death leaves an impact on you, as he himself has gone through it so many times, seeing his own team end up dead, being shot at, getting blown up, and a lot of times he doesn't even know if the loop will repeat or not. So that thing has left a lasting impact on him, and he doesn't want it to go on to his team, because this is his purpose, right? His whole thing of like looping around is that I find the loopholes and I help you do it. And he spends so much time, he's seen so many murders, like he wants to protect this one person that he's been charged with protecting, and he wants to break free of this mystery. And also he wants to make sure that the person who's doing this, the looper, is out in the open, because if he can kill 2 people without being known, basically. He can target people that he loves. He can target Anlan and her mum and other people around Moma Tech, or even people on his team that might end up getting in his way in the future. So the safest option for everybody is for that person to be exposed and probably put behind bars indefinitely. And I think it's a very good motivation for Ding Chi to sort of soldier forward and basically break through everything. Like, he literally purchased a van full of surveillance equipment, and Yu Pei-shan was looking at us like Christmas came early. I think it's the perks of being a looper, getting all of the money without making people suspicious, because he's got himself a really nice trust fund and he's probably set for life with the kind of cars he drives and the apartment that he lives in. And I'm glad there's an explanation, because a lot of times characters would be like having the best things and then they'd be like on a policeman salary, which is not realistic at all. So I'm glad they had an explanation for the whole thing. And I don't think if anyone's noticed, like I think I was probably overanalyzing the whole thing by the end of it, but I really like the fact that the decorations in Moyenji's office, like where he is in Moema Technology, like his office is like completely transparent from two sides, but like closed up from two sides, which is a normal configuration of a room, right? But mostly, if you've seen, there's a painting which is like broken in two and there's a light in the middle. So it's like Moyenji breaking out of his shell finally once he's like understood the art of looping. And then when he sits down on the sofa, there's this sculpture behind him with like this man holding a couple of bulbs. It reminded me of Moyenji, thinking he's carrying all the burdens in his hands of curing patients and basically making the world a better place, but like also having the burden of resurrecting Shen Wanqing and basically making up for his mistakes towards her. And when he started, his heart was in the right place. Like, he was a proper graduate student and he had dreams, and it got corrupted along the way. And can I just say, Moyenji and Zhang Yuan really deserve each other by the end of it. I think Zhang Yuan probably was the worst out of the two, with the way he basically goaded on Moyenji and needled him in the place where it hurt the most. But Moyenji himself was complicit in the whole thing, and he didn't really feel bad for the people until it affected the person that he loved the most. And the whole thing, I really felt sad for Yuxia, because she thought she was marrying a person that she really loved and who loved her as well. And it turned out to be a scam from the beginning. And I hope she gets control of the whole thing and she gets the shares back and she gets a clean divorce from this guy and basically lives her life on her own terms going forward. And it'll be interesting to see who loops in the future, because Zhang Yuan, he's still searching for a cure and he's still got his research, right? So if Anlan gets hold of that research and she combines it with what she's done by herself, it would probably end up getting the RAN2 vaccine that Zhang Yuan was talking about, because Anlan can do it if she has access to like the whole thing. And I think Yuxia would probably be more than happy to give it to her, even Tang Xin, because that's her dad, right? And as long as both of them come together, plus Maggie with her financial support, because Moma currently is falling apart because it doesn't have any money. So if Maggie, Tang Xin and Yuxia pressure Han Yufei, because, you know, if they do end up developing a cure for cancer, they would be set for life and more. So it's a good deal, and it would be a good way to sort of deal with the consequences. So I don't know how they'll handle the looping in the future, but so far it's quite poetic justice for like Zhang Yuan aging rapidly, because he's the one person who wanted to cure people, yes, but he also wanted to expand people's lives, right? So in a way, his life is being cut short. And then Moyenji, because he sees everything with his eyes, right? He's a researcher. He needs his eyes to see data, to interpret it, to analyze it, to work. Because, you know, his brain computes everything, but his eyes sees everything. So his eyes are going bad. And then Ding Chi, like, his heart is in the right place, right? Because he's a happy-go-lucky guy. So he started feeling heart pains. And it's true, like the early RAN medicine, it really, really went after people's weak spots. And I wonder how they're going to play it out in the future. If they do end up developing a second season, which I probably think they will, because there's been a good reception of Mobius. And it's quite different, but it's also coherent, because a lot of times sci-fi shows, you don't really know where the head and the tail is, because as time goes on, especially during the last 3-4 episodes, the thing gets jumbled up so badly that you don't even know where you started, which wasn't the case with Mobius, because even though it sort of lost his way towards the end for the whole Mo Yunji and like Zhang Yuan and the chase thing, because the whole thing turned into sort of like a Maktan drama, like she's his daughter, and like hidden birth secrets started coming out, but they never deviated from the sci-fi angle of it, because despite everybody being everybody's kids, the thing is that you're still looping time, right? The paternity secret thing and the whole thing doesn't cancel out the fact that time is still going forward and then returning back to the starting point 5 times. And everybody is complicit in it without realizing it. And Ding Chi is trying to gain as much information as he can, but we as viewers only get information as Ding Chi gets it, which I think was quite clever, because in the first loop, I think, when Anlan goes into Mo Eun-ji's room and like they have a chat, we don't hear what they're talking about. When the second time, Ding Chi is prepared and he bugs Anlan and he secretly hears the conversation. So we only get to know what they're talking about, what they've seen, when our characters get to know what they're talking about or what they've seen. And every and any information, small or big, eventually ends up being transferred to Ding Chi towards the end before the loop resets, which I think is quite nice, because if you haven't gotten information yet, like Yu Yisha, when she entered Mo Eun-ji's secret lab, she had a horrified look on her face and she was acting shifty the entire time, but we don't know why until Ding Chi and Anlan entered the room physically and actually saw the squid and Chen Wanqing's body. So we got that information when Ding Chi got it. So we might get information a few minutes before Ding Chi, but you better believe that he's going to get that information before the loop resets, which I think is nice because it forces us to think, who is the second person, who's the second looper? And then by the time you get to the second looper, you're like, who's the third looper now? Because somebody else is pulling the strings apart from the person who's already there. And every time a person shows up, you're like, are you the looper? Are you the looper? And everyone's behaving suspicious, which I think is a trait of like through mystery thriller shows where everyone's like suspicious until they're not. So I really like to see a second season with preferably the same cast, because they do actually work well together. And I think they're in Hong Kong, not in China, because there was a lot of Cantonese being spoken, and I could see there are a lot of Hong Kong actors in the cast as well. I think that's probably one of the reasons why it's less restricted in terms of like how the police works. Was if you remember Reset, where the police and promote the police angle was quite heavy because it was mainland China's police, right? Over here it's Hong Kong police. I think they've relaxed it a little bit, where the police might be one step behind, but you better be sure they're going to solve it at the end of the day. I'm not sure. If somebody knows about this, please correct me. But I quite like the way they worked as a team. They were there to support each other, and I really love to see them return for a second season, probably a third as well if they do a nice second season, but with the same cast and the same crew, please. Because I quite like the actor playing Mo Eun-ji, and Bai Jing-ting, he's a delight as always. And Janice Bond, like, it's been a long time since I've seen her, but it was quite nice seeing her. And the other actors as well, like Baby Zhang, and even the actor playing Maggie, like, she's a very well-known Thai actress. Like, I loved her in Bad Genius, so I was quite surprised seeing her. And I hope they have Maggie around in the second season as well. And if you haven't watched Mobius yet, please do. Even though I've probably spoiled the whole thing for you already, please go back and watch it still, because it's actually a very good show, and I think you'll enjoy it as a sci-fi angle because it doesn't question your intellect. It's not too overly complicated, and even though the story itself, sometimes you're like, where's this going? Almost everything gets a resolution, and characters do stay true to themselves as much as they could. And I hope if Bai Jing-ting ever wants to become a time traveler again who starts feeling the consequences of time traveling, he probably picks a good script, because I don't mind seeing him, even though he himself spoke in an interview about he didn't want to be typecast, but it was a good script, and I believe him 100%. It was a good script. And seeing how he did most of his actions himself, and he's actually really good at his action scenes, and I would love to see them again. And I really like the way the character styles evolved as the time went on, because Mo Eun-ji, as the head of MoMA Technology, he's completely in his Steve Jobs persona. He's got those shoes, he's got the high neck t-shirts, he's got the buzz cut. It's more magnified when he's gone to Ivy Bay University to give lecture and he runs on the stage, and so he probably wants to win people's confidence. He wants to portray them that I'm a founder of this company and I'm ready to take charge of the whole thing. And it's also the same for Ding Chi, because we saw in a flashback, his mum was asking him to recite famous novel quotes, and he was being punished when he was stuttering in between. And I really like to see Ding Chi's relationship with his parents, his mum, his family, hopefully if we do get a second season. But it's also how his style evolved, as a college student when he probably didn't have any money, to now when he's got the cheat code and amassed a decent fortune for himself. And there's also Anlan, who switches between her researcher persona and the public speaker persona, because she's all glammed up, open hair, suited up when she's in Ivy Bay University giving a lecture, but when she's in the lab, her hair tied up, she's got the glasses on top, and she's completely focused on what she's doing because she's research focused, right? And the only reason why she even wanted to be in the top layer of MoMA Technology was because she wanted to gain access to past records and see what happened to Chen Wanqing. And the same goes to Mo Yun-jin as well, because when he's in his researcher era in the beginning. He's got long hair. It was like a mullet. It's all grown out, but like when he's like Moma's founder, it's completely gone. And he's slick, he's got this grown up persona around him. And Dingchi as well, like when he was going around investigating cases before going undercover at MoMA, he had jackets on, right? And he was wearing casual clothes, decently casual clothes. But like once he got into his bodyguard persona, it was only like a black tie thing. So it was like pants, blazer, and tie. And I'm not complaining, like I really enjoyed seeing Dingchi in his bodyguard persona. And I really like the way we saw a transition in everybody. Like even Anlan in her university days, she's got side braids, which she doesn't ever wear as a researcher. It's either open hair or like pulled at the back or in a ponytail. There's no creative hairstyles with her. But as somebody who's just about to get into university, she has a side braid. She's happy. She's got her hair pulled back in like a half pull. And it's nice. It's the little details really that make up a drama. It also found Lun Pei-chan forming a heart from different gestures and the heart from inside the jacket. Like, I loved the police team and I really wish we'd get to see them again. And if you've watched Mobius, how did you find it? Did you also enjoy seeing Dingchi's antics? And, I have a theory. Does the loop reset every time something important to Dingchi happens? Like, he's written his research and the loop's like, let me just restart for you. He's built up his model completely and the loop's like, let me just restart for you. But it does help him in some ways, so there's that. But yeah, how did you find it? Did you also like the chemistry between Dingchi and Anlan, which I really, really liked because they're not forceful towards each other and they have this camaraderie thing going on between the both of them, because initially Dingchi felt guilty, right? But I'm glad they didn't push it too much, and things between them, they weren't awkward. Even though Anlan was hesitating at messaging Dingchi the first few times that we saw her, it's more of she doesn't want to interrupt him at work and she doesn't want to push him when she knows that, he might be feeling guilty and that's why he's with her, like in touch with her. But I like the way Anlan is straightforward in terms of asking Dingchi, how do you feel about me? Is it because of the guilt? Or is it because of something else? But she's not blaming Dingchi for the accident and she knows it's not his fault and she's accepted it and moved forward from it, and she wants Dingchi to move forward from it as well. And that quiet relationship blooming so beautifully towards the end, especially like in the third loop, like when the lab burns down and Dingchi and Anlan are trapped in there and it literally goes into ashes, and Anlan kisses Dingchi just before everything burns down is like poetic. And if you really want to experience that, please go and watch Mobius. Like, am I the spokesperson for Mobius? Probably at this point, and you should probably watch it too. And yeah, let me know how you find the series. You can reach out to me on Twitter, on Instagram. My ID is talk_about_drama, and Talk About Drama is available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, Amazon Podcast, and YouTube. You can leave me a comment on Spotify and YouTube, so let me know. And I will see you guys next time, hopefully with a good series. Until then, I hope you guys are having a good week. Ciao.